If there was a demographic of women that we're easy to dismiss, it's going to be women in peri.
You are tuned into the Dr. Tina Show with Dr. Tina Moore. For more, visit drtyna.com. On this episode of the Dr. Tina Show, I'm sitting down with my girl, Dr. Mariza Snyder. She is an absolute powerhouse advocate for midlife women, leveraging 17 years as a practitioner, author, and speaker to spark a massive movement for women in perimenopause and beyond. Her upcoming book, The Perimenopause Revolution, is the ultimate resource for women ready to take charge of their health and embrace perimenopause and resilience with confidence. And you can pre-order it now at drmariza.com/book. This was a spicy episode with lots of truth bombs, so let's jump in. Dr. Mariza, welcome to the Dr. Tina Show. I'm so excited to have you here, lady. And we're going to be talking all things perimenopause and your new book. So welcome.
Yes, welcome to this revolution. I love that all of these things are having a moment. Perimenopause is having a moment. Menopause is having a moment. Metabolic health is having a moment. Women are having a moment. And gosh, I can't believe we waited until 2025. So here we go.
Well, it took all of us moving into perimenopause, right?
Yes.
For it to, and we all came into it. I think I'm a few years ahead of you guys, most of you, but we all,
we're like the outrage. We were like, wait, what? This was getting dismissed?
Yeah.
No. We are changing the narrative. We are turning the tide. We are rewriting midlife on our terms.
Yes. Well, it's a good time to be alive. I mean, this is a good age. I know there's some ups and downs, but I wouldn't trade it for my 20s, I'm like,
I wouldn't trade it for my 20s. I could maybe trade it for, I'd take the energy of my 30s.
Yeah.
I take the sleep of my 30s. I would take the high octane, have a lot more capacity 30s. I don't mind that I get to I be more discerning, have more boundaries. But I wouldn't say that was by choice. I would say that
It never is. This is just live and learn and, toughen up.
Just make it work.
Toughen up a little, right? But you threw a wrench in the whole thing. You have a toddler, basically. So, I mean, you have a different route on this one. Most of us are launching our kids into the universe and, going out on our own solo again. So you've got a little bit different situation.
Yeah, our friend Cynthia Thurlow just sent her son back to college. And I think it's interesting how many friends that are either in peri or early menopause are launching children or definitely have them launch. And I just went to the pre-K meet and greet last night with all the other kids and the parents. And yeah, it was really interesting. I'm like, but you know what? A lot of women are like me. We are having children later. And hence why I think one of the reasons why perimenopause is maybe hitting harder is that there really isn't a gap or a pause or a break between, young children, postpartum, and then heading into peri.
Yeah. I could not imagine. My best friend had a baby at 40 and I was like, what are you doing? We were supposed to escape together.
You have set us back 20 years.
Seriously. I was like, what are you doing? He's a lovely child, but it was tough on her. That's a tough one. She was excited about it at the time, but it takes its toll. These are not our 20s.
Yeah, no, when they get sick, I was like, I'm no more. I can't sleep. Don't y'all know that sleep is going to make or break me the next day? And I got a sick kid with a fever every month on the month because they're building an immune system. Yeah, no, I was asking my mom who had me when she was 18, 19, and she's like, yeah, I don't remember the sleep stuff. I don't remember. I was like, you were 20.
Yeah.
Like, I'm 40. It's a very different 43, whatever it was. It's a very different ball game. So yeah, I do see the benefit of having children earlier. I get why we're having them later, but yeah, definitely a different level of capacity when you're in your 20s and 30s.
I always say, I wish that I had the patience and the knowledge and just the calmness that I possessed in my 40s when I had my daughter. It would have been I would have been a whole different level of mother. But that said, there's no bandwidth at all that I could have fathomed in my 40s having a baby. I would have been like, No, this is too hard. This is the losing sleep part alone that was miserable for me in my 20s. Yeah, it's a hard thing. I think we're going through a lot of transitions. We're going through a lot of levels. It's like leveling up, right? It reminds me of it. It really reminds me of just puberty, only the older version.
the reverse.
Yeah.
I know, I'm sure you've seen the term cougar puberty instead of second puberty. I love that. But no, it is, instead of ascension, and not to say that there aren't things that we're contending with as teenagers or preteens, the anxiousness, just trying to navigate the awkwardness of becoming, even a teenager into adulthood like that. It's very messy. I remember it being very destabilizing as a teenager. I remember not really understanding my body or understanding myself, and no one prepping me really for my period. But very different ball game when you are now mothering, and you've got your career and you've got family and community, and you're really holding all the things in the air, and your body is, in a way, it feels like a bit of a betrayal at times. You're like, wait, whoa. I have way too many responsibilities that I need to be handling. Like I need to be able to sleep. I need to have energy. I need to have some level of stress resilience. I need power and strength to get through this phase. And it's all while it's beginning to crumble. And if you're not prepared or ready, or no one told you or warned you, it gets really messy very quickly.
Yes, it absolutely. I think for me, the biggest issue was cognition. Like that's what I really started seeing slip. And I thought, am I getting Alzheimer's? What is happening? And, realizing that I was just having brain shifts. It was my adult daughter who said, Mom, I think you need some estrogen. I don't know what that does, but I've been hearing about that in the brain. And I was like, you're right, that there is a very distinct connection there. And she's like, I think you might want to try some. So leave it to the kids.
Look at her looking out for you. Yeah, my son just finishes my sentences. Like I was telling you guys before we jumped on, I was trying to hand him grapes, and I was like, here's your blueberries, your cherries. He's like, grapes? And I was like, yeah, you're effing grapes. And I wasn't saying that to him. It was more me frustrated with myself that I couldn't even get the word grapes out of my mouth. And this is every day. I call it perimenopause in the wild. Where friends are forgetting words, friends are not remembering where they left something, friends are feeling irritable and stressed, and everyone's getting on their nerves. I'm like, oh, that's just perimenopause in the wild. Like I see it all the time.
That's a good term for it. I like that. Well, so you're such a fierce advocate for women in general. And I mean, even as a friend, you're such a fierce advocate for all of us. And I know that perimenopause, like you had a few things going. You had a baby, you had a head injury, like you've just had a time the last few years. And what's come of this is this awesome book that's coming to life. You've birthed this great book. So let's talk about your perimenopause experience. How has this been thus far?
It has been a reckoning. Let's just call it. The book is really what I wish I had when I was going through it. Because it's one thing, and I know you've had so many patients in midlife, in perimenopause and menopause, and it's one thing to be taking care of your patients and trying to help them navigate through all of these symptoms, especially the brain-related symptoms. It's another thing when it happens to you. And that's what you're saying. You're like, the cognitive changes have been so profound. And I felt like I wasn't warned. I didn't realize it was going to be that bad. I think the brain injury didn't help at all. Talk about more oxidative stress. And so in 2023, my son was 2. I was still breastfeeding. And I remember I was feeling on top of the world. I was 43 years old. I had just turned 43 in September. And I decided to up-level my training. I wanted to train harder. I wanted to train heavier. I was already working out sometimes 2 days a week, or not, sorry, 2 times a day, not 2 days a week, 2 times a day. Like we're talking mini, like I'll do like 15 minutes in the afternoon, 45 minutes, but I just had that capacity. So I get the trainer, I'm really training hard. And I just become a puddle on the floor. Like my energy is gone. My brain isn't working. I start having, and it wasn't like they were cyclical symptoms, but it felt like early stages of burnout again. It felt like maybe my thyroid was coming offline. Maybe I needed to shift my medication. We actually did shift my medication, and that didn't go well. I ended up feeling more hypothyroid than anything. But I remember like I was trying to fill in the dots, and I think a lot of women find themselves here. I was just interviewing Dr. Jessica Drummond in the kind of the interception of perimenopause and chronic illness, and how many women are coming into perimenopause already struggling with insulin resistance or polycystic ovarian syndrome or burnout, not being able to regulate their nervous system. And they come into peri and hormones begin to erratically decline, and they're not binding to receptor sites the way that they're supposed to. And it's just like I would say whatever's driving that fire to be even bigger, like that's what perimenopause feels like. And so for me, I felt like I was coming out of postpartum, and I had Hashimoto's thyroiditis. I had these things that I had come in even to pregnancy with. All of a sudden, it felt like the fuel on the fire was this shift in hormones. And I found myself kind of scrambling to figure out what was going on with me. Right when I was probably figuring it out, I got hit in the head twice. So I spiraled with post-concussion syndrome. And on the back end of that, in the fall that year, I remember it was actually probably the same week that you interviewed me in 2023, I had experienced rage for the third month in a row, with bouts of like feeling that life was insurmountable, feeling flat, feeling disconnected. And because I was tracking my symptoms along my cycle, I realized it was like day 22 on the dot every single month, August, September, October. And finally in October, when I went back and looked at my own data, I was like, this is perimenopause. That's what this is. I can't blame this on the head injury. I can't blame this on Hashimoto's. Like this is 100% peri. And it felt so good to know what was happening. Because I knew then I could start bringing in some of my tools and lifestyle strategies to kind of get it under control.
Yeah, it's crazy, the shifts that happen in your brain and the mood impacts. I mean, it's like, talk about flat affect. That's the other thing. When estrogen leaves the room, my affect just goes it's such a flat affect. Like I literally could get in my car and drive away from my entire family and never see them again. And I would be fine until, because when you're in peri, what I want people to understand is it's not just this like it used to be. It's like, with the hormones. So some months I get estrogen, some months I don't get estrogen.
Some months you're okay. Some months you're not. I'll be honest, I'm 5 days out from my period right now. And yes, I've had multiple migraines in this luteal phase, but I haven't felt flat, thank God. I haven't felt dread, and my rage hasn't come in. So, and mind you, I'm on hormone replacement therapy, but I will say that even with HRT, some months are not as good as other months. And there's a lot of things that I bring into the later half of my cycle to help support me. One, just being by myself. Like you said, driving away from your family. I just walk away from them. There are days where I've just walked away, and I'll text Alex. I'm like, I'll see you guys in a little bit.
Yes, I need a break. Well, it's the progesterone and estrogen. Sometimes we get a good surge of progesterone, and sometimes we don't. Sometimes we get some estrogen, sometimes we get a little extra bump, sometimes we don't. And that can be really challenging for women. So how do you propose women? I mean, HRT is one conversation. I know last time we were together, I had a few comments back, people saying, they really wanted to know the details on HRT, which I suppose we could discuss, but that's not really the point. I think the point here, and after reading your book, is more like we have to prepare for this. I wish I could tell every 30-year-old or 35-year-old woman, like, start training now, but we need to prepare for perimenopause. And there's so many lifestyle things that need to be in order before we ever even talk about HRT. So let's get into some of that. Like what do we need to know? What would you say to 35-year-old you?
Ooh, what would I say? What would I say? I would say, number one, get your metabolic health optimized. Number one, like, if every thought we have, everything we do is the quality of our cellular energy, then that is number one. Number two, stop overdoing everything. It is not your fault. You are not broken. You don't have to, like, if you're not getting the result you're looking for in your body, don't keep over pushing, because you're probably going to burn yourself out, which is exactly what happened then. I would say. And another thing I think it's really important, a lesson that I wish my 30-something-year-old self would have known, is that it feels good to feel good. Like, you could just do something because it feels good to you, that it brings you joy. Like, build more of that in. Move like your life depends on it. And I mean, every day, all the time during the day, not just the one big heavy lift. I know, like if you're stressed, do some deadlifts. If you're, if you ate a big meal, do some deadlifts. I want you walking or jump squatting or doing something all day long. Like that one workout and then you're done for the day isn't going to cut it. It's not going to cut it in your 40s, your 50s, and surely not your 60s and 70s. So punctuate your life with movement and build your life around movement. And I would say that not just for the metabolic gains or the immune system gains or even the brain cognition gains, I move for my mental health. I move for stress. I move to regulate myself. I would say I do that more than anything. And then the other thing is like, get very serious about your sleep. Don't let it and I'm talking about sleep consistency.
Yeah.
Like be disciplined about when you go to bed and when you wake up. And because it's going to become what over 60% of us in perimenopause and menopause are going to struggle with sleep issues. And I don't think it's all just hormones. I think a lot of it is that you still think you can get away with the things that you got away with in your 20s and your 30s, and it ain't working anymore. Gone are the days where you can just run into bed and hope and pray that you're going to go asleep. We need a routine. You need a wind down, especially when hormones aren't showing up the way that they're supposed to, and you are deregulated and anxious and overwhelmed heading to bed because goodness knows you are carrying the weight of everybody on your shoulders. You've got to prime your brain for good sleep. If you're not getting good sleep, let's say you're averaging 5 to 6 hours of sleep at night, you are going to make that up in calories the next day, 15 to 20% in calories. And so your body's going to find a way to make it up. And it's going to have an impact on your metabolic health and more importantly, on your oxidative stress in your brain. The other thing I would say to my 30-year-old self is establish boundaries now. Don't wait. You don't wait until your marriage is crumbling. Don't wait until relationships are struggling. Don't wait until you don't have any capacity.
Yeah. Learn to say no.
Yeah. Learn to say no earlier.
Yeah.
Be more discerning earlier. That way you come into this space and you don't feel like you get Mack trucked by perimenopause. I think the reason why we're experiencing the Mack truck moments, at least I'm speaking for myself, is that I did freight train into perimenopause, and gosh, should I have been surprised when it hit me really hard? When I just had so much going on. If I had been a bit more discerning about my health and myself and my priorities, I don't think it would have been so destabilizing.
Yeah, absolutely. I was just thinking as you were talking, there were so many good points there. I was joking earlier with you that, you have a toddler, but I had a teenager, which is a whole other
No, yeah.
a whole
First
other
puberty and second puberty clashing together.
It was like a
two women.
Yeah, it was like a gauntlet. It was like going through the gauntlet. She just came out of it. It was a 10-year gauntlet. She went in at 14 and she came out around 25, and all of a sudden the prefrontal cortex. She's so funny. She edits all of my podcasts down for Reels for Instagram, and she's like, Mom, I think my prefrontal cortex turned on. I now know what you're talking about. I was like, okay, good, honey. But I was between that, talk about stress. I was between that, which I think a lot of women are. They're dealing with teens. My friends that I watch whose kids are in a lot of sports, they're doing multiple sports. A lot of these kids are in team travel clubs. And so it's just all the time, everywhere. And then they never do anything for themselves. There's often a lot of alcohol being consumed, at least I know, because stress gets high. So alcohol intake, it becomes too easy to start sucking down wine. And then you have say you have 1 or 2 wicks of tolerance. You create a bunch more wicks, you light them on fire, and you just keep telling yourself, this will be fine. It's like that dog, that meme cartoon of the dog with the fire around him. And he's like, this is fine.
It's not fine. It's not fine. It's not fine because
then you get hammered.
You get massively hammered. Well, and that's already, what you described is getting hammered.
Yeah, right. So you're trying to breathe, and then all of a sudden, bam, estrogen leaves the building. I would say one of the first signs also for me was lack of tolerance for stress, just complete breakdown of tolerance for stress.
Yeah. And I think those are always, when people ask me the subtle symptoms. And it's the thing about the subtle symptoms, it's the symptoms that every woman's been told to just deal with. It's the
Yep.
symptoms that every woman has been told, like, you just suck it up. Like, that's just what women tolerate. That's just what women deal with. And that's no, like, that low stress tolerance, that is a signal. If you knew that you at one point, maybe 6 months ago or a year ago, you had capacity, you were able to juggle all of that whole schedule that you just described, running your kids from here to there and everywhere, that you remembered to, oh gosh, they have that permission slip that needed to be signed. Oh, you ordered their shoes. Someone needs shoes tomorrow because they lost a shoe yesterday for soccer practice, whatever it is. And like, you had it. And then all of a sudden it's not sticking, like it's gone, and your tolerance and your patience is out the door. That's usually pretty early, and you're in your mid to late 30s, maybe early 40s. That's very early perimenopause.
Yep.
And it needs to be, because I'm telling you, if we don't attune to what your body's telling you, what your brain's telling you, it's going to get worse for
sure.
many of us.
For sure. And I think sleep disruption was another early symptom for me. It was not even noticing it. I didn't even notice it. I found myself with these random bouts of insomnia, like real insomnia, the kind where you wake, you either can't go to sleep or you get to sleep and you wake up a few hours later and you're like, I'm awake. And it was happening maybe, that used to happen to me like once a year. And then it was happening to me once every 6 months. And I thought, oh, it's stress. And then it was happening once a month. And then it was happening once a week. And I am a sleeper. I am like a tried and true sleeper. And I will not let anybody disrupt my sleep or mess with my sleep at all. And I found myself having these bouts of really wild, intense insomnia. And that's when I thought, okay, something's going on here. There's some hormones missing. They're starting to wane.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, talk about progesterone just not showing up. And what a lot of women pay attention to is often insomnia will be cyclical. Again, it'll be when, progesterone's supposed to show up and it doesn't show up. You had an anovulatory cycle. And so it will, like you said, it's really can be very inconsistent, and this first half of your cycle, you're good. Second half of your cycle, not good. So that's worth paying attention to. And I think it just means that, one, start talking to your doctor about potentially bioidentical progesterone as a possibility, but there's other things that we can try, right? Try your magnesium, get some type of sleep supplement that you feel supportive of you. I'm doing Transcription Z's sometimes and progesterone. I have sleepy teas that will knock me the F out. And then I'm also really a stickler about my sleep consistency. I track my sleep consistency on my Whoop. I go to bed at the same time. I wake up at the same time. I get my eyes in sunlight in the morning. Like, I'm willing to do all the things to guarantee that I'm getting good sleep. And so far, knock on wood, overall, it's been fine. But I also make sure that I'm like stacking the deck in sleep's favor, because I'm just not, because especially with the brain injury, after the brain injury, I can't afford it. I can't afford to not sleep well. I'm a puddle on the floor. I mean, it feels like massive cognitive decline. Like, I have bad word recall the next day. I have no stress tolerance, and not having stress tolerance when you have a 4.5-year-old, no, thank you. And I don't have capacity. So sleep is one of those things where if you're noticing that it's slipping, do everything in your power to get it back. Talk to the doctors, track your sleep, bring on the supplements, bring on the routine, bring on the breath work and the meditations, like whatever it takes, like get that thing back and dialed, because it's probably the reason why your stress tolerance is even worse than it had been.
Yes. And that takes us back to what I was saying, where I used to light all the wicks on fire. I kept thinking, oh, I'll have time later to figure out meditation. I'll have time later to figure out, mindfulness. I was too busy. I had too many plates in the air. I couldn't put anything down. I had to keep going. And this is also a time when our careers are often taking off, right? Like, perimenopause years are often years, especially if you're an entrepreneur, like things start clicking and you start getting some, ground, and suddenly you're on planes all the time and you're all over the place. And that is an absolute disaster for your circadian rhythm, and taking it back to that sleep piece. So it's
awful.
Yeah, it's awful.
Traveling, oh my gosh, traveling and sleep and circadian rhythm. I mean, maybe some women still have good resilience in perimenopause. I have not found that to be true.
Yeah, I was okay. I was okay until, I'm still in perimenopause. I'm cycling pretty regularly still. And every once, like I just skipped a cycle. So every once in a while I'll skip a cycle. So I'm sure it's coming. The change is coming. And, I'll tell you that my patients who were the fittest, my patients who went into perimenopause and menopause with the most muscle and the fittest sailed through the easiest. The ones who came in completely deconditioned, metabolically unsound, absolute disaster. Absolute disaster. And so, and then I'm like the middle ground, right? Like my stress kept my metabolic health.
Stress.
Yeah.
That's the other piece.
Yeah.
Yeah. You can be metabolically dialed. I just had labs ran a couple days ago, full comprehensive panels and everything. I mean, you look at my labs, chef's kiss. Like, no, we didn't look at hormones. It was just all the metabolic labs. It was all the cardiometabolic labs and inflammation labs. And I was like, damn, like on paper, that looks pretty damn good. I'm like, but that's not really taken into account the stress that's going on or the migraine. There was other things. So it's really interesting how I feel like you can still be pretty metabolically dialed, which unfortunately many of us aren't going into perimenopause. I just, let's call it, what is it? 6-7% of us are metabolically healthy overall, and women become a lot more vulnerable in this time. Which to me makes so much sense. When things are destabilizing and you're just trying to get your feet under you, it's no wonder a lot of that starts to fall to the wayside. But the other piece that I see is going to be the stress component. Like if that's not under control, then I'm still going to see women struggling with a lot of brain-related symptoms.
Absolutely. Talk about labs. My labs were perfection, not even a blip, no matter how crazy I felt or looked I was starting to edge into looking pretty metabolically unsound there for a couple of years during COVID because I was so stressed out. Like stress will just destroy your best efforts. Mm-hmm. But my labs look great. It was not until the estrogen started falling out and even with our best efforts, ladies, you will become insulin resistant. You will have your lipids, your cholesterol and your other blood lipids elevate. You will have all these things happen to you no matter how hard you try. So I work with folks that are rail thin, 6-pack abs in perfect condition, work out every single day on HRT, and they're still having issues with cardiometabolic markers starting to creep. So this is just the game, right?
Yeah. And I want, put a pin in that because there's a lot of people out there. There's a lot of talk out there that is saying that this isn't happening to women in this perimenopause transition. I'm like, what? Were you never in clinical practice? Have you never talked to one of your friends going through this? I think every woman who has tried their hardest, again, like if anything, more calorie restriction, more overtraining, like this is what I see. And yet blood pressure is creeping. Insulin resistance is becoming, more prevalent. Lipids are going out of range. Body composition changes. And I'm like, and we know that as these hormones are declining, we are seeing these shifts happening. I call it the silent shift. And so, yes, as future-proof your health well before you get into peri so that you've got some armor coming into this, but just note that you have still got to stay on top of it proactively because whether you know it or not, as estrogen begins to not even decline, just starts not showing up consistently, bone is going to start to fall apart. Like you're going to start to lose your bone. It's not in early menopause that we lose that 20%. It's happening in perimenopause too. It's not just in early menopause that your blood pressure is beginning to creep up. That is happening in perimenopause as well. So as estrogen leaves the scene, and for some women, it's going to be earlier in their 40s. For others, it's going to be in their early 50s. I don't know where you're going to land. But the more that you can stay on top of your numbers, the more that you can stay on top of your biometrics and your body, like you demand and advocate for what you need. Because, that whole mess of like, oh, women's metabolism isn't shifting or anything like that. I'm like, tell the woman who's just gained like 10 pounds and she is busting her butt, like something's happening.
Something is happening. I think it's much more hormonal than true decline in metabolism, but that shift in hormones even subtly. And the standard of care in the allopathic system is to put them on statins, give them some blood pressure medication, or if they're lucky. I'm talking like when most patients come into my office and they were going through that perimenopausal shift, and it was statin. Suddenly they're on a statin and they're like, should I take this? Or they're on some kind of blood pressure medication or being given it. And then an SSRI. That's like the trio combo on the platter.
61 million women on SSRIs right now.
I just did a whole podcast about it. It actually creates bone loss. It leads to bone loss, and it leads to cardiovascular issues and clotting issues. And I'm like, why is no one talking about, aren't those the cardinal risks also as we start to go into menopause, and the standard of care is to give them an SSRI. And I'm like, why are we not treating or testing and treating their hormones? This is bonkers.
Yeah, it's crazy. Evidence-based approach is what I hear is bonkers. No, it's super bonkers. We've got to do better for us. Yeah. We need to do better. To me, that's I call that lazy medicine, because we're not getting to the root cause of what's going on.
Well, with that Women's Health Initiative in 2002, everybody got scared off, and then a whole generation of doctors just didn't even learn hormone replacement.
Two generations of doctors haven't learned. Yeah, we're doctors that are relearning. So yeah, the gold standard is birth control and SSRIs. And then, not to say that there isn't a time and place, it is really nuanced, where you've got women who can be in a major hormone transition and can still get pregnant. I get the concerns. And, that's why we really do need an individualized approach to helping women. So for instance, like, getting pregnant is not going to happen for me. So bioidentical HRT based on the symptoms that I'm dealing with and the labs, like, that is very much like I am a candidate for that, period.
Yes.
So it really, so I would say advocate for yourself. If there was a demographic of women that we are easy to dismiss, it's going to be women in peri.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. So let's talk about that. That piece, I hear this all the time from my people of, my doctor said they're not going to test because I'm in peri and it's going to look crazy anyway. And then they won't give me HRT. And I'm like, find a different doctor, because I never stop prescribing. I guess I was living in a silo. I've always been prescribing, and I prescribe to whatever human is in front of me for whatever hormonal deficiency they're presenting with, and whatever symptom picture correlates with that. Like, you have to put the two, you run the labs to cover your ass, but you learn how to do this as a physician, right? So that you can actually relieve your patient's symptoms. And then when you have the two of those synergize, boom, we figured it out. It's not easy, but it's a lot easier if the person's in good shape and good health. I'll tell you that much.
I would say a healthy host for hormones.
That's a big, that's why I love GLP-1s, because it really cleans up the terrain and gets the fat off and gets the metabolic health in order. But all that they got to put the work in. That's why we're both, I think, saying like
declining inflammation, for like GLP-1s as well. How many women have come to you who are doing all the things that you say that they're like, I'm training, I'm lifting heavy, I'm eating protein, I'm eating fiber, I'm trying to regulate my stress, I am prioritizing my sleep, and yet I can't lose this weight. I can't do this. And I'm like, okay, well then we need to look at peptides. We need to look at GLP-1s just to kind of help you out. I think that always needs to be a part of the conversation as well. But yes, right now, currently, if you were to go to your OBGYN or your primary doctor and you were to even ask them, hey, could this be perimenopause? Or can you help me with perimenopause? Or do you even prescribe hormones? It's most likely going to be a no. And so, yeah, what do we do? How do we, because, it's easy for me to say, hey, go find another doctor. Who? Where?
I know.
And so, one of the things I say is go to your compounding doctor or your compounding pharmacist and ask who's compounding, who's actually doing it, who's prescribing, and go from there. There are virtual practices. Again, it's going to be more one size fits all, unfortunately, to some degree. But starting somewhere, I think, is better than nowhere.
Yeah, absolutely.
If we're really having an honest conversation about this, like, I cannot tell you how many times I've changed my dosage of hormones.
Right. You have to.
Yeah.
You have to. I always give my patients that permission. Like, seasonally, it's going to shift. Stress-wise, it's going to shift. There's so many variables here. And in peri, just for those listening, what your dose is
shifting.
What your dose is 1 month is not what your dose is 3 months later. It's sometimes you got to go less, sometimes you got to go more. It's all over the frickin' place. And it's literally like trying to hit a moving target. But I always say, like, I'm in the gauntlet now. I'm just trying to get out of it so I can actually get to the point where all my hormones are exogenous. And at least then there'll be some control.
Yeah, there's stability.
We talk so much about menopause being rough, but I think actually perimenopause might be the rougher part.
I think it is. I personally, now that I'm in it, I'm living it. And I think about all the symptoms that women, I was like, you mean that the entire time these women were struggling with these symptoms, it was perimenopause. But until we were okay with them being in a low hormone state, we weren't prescribing Premarin. I'm talking like even 60s and 70s and 80s and 90s. We're like, okay, not until the standard was until you stopped your period. Then we could prescribe for hot flashes, low libido, night sweats, and maybe even sleep issues, although we're giving other things for that. But that's kind of that was the standard of care. That was the evidence-based medicine, if we're talking about that. And now here we're all this time, and women were struggling with all these symptoms, and we just kept gaslighting them. We put them on birth control until they finally got into menopause. And like if they were on birth control, it wasn't until they were at least 53 or 54 years old that we would take them off. I mean, it's been such a big mess. And so here we are. We have women who are symptomatic. Obviously, it's a clinical diagnosis, which is perimenopause, and are very clinically presenting for the need of hormones. So yeah, but you still have doctors who are like, yeah, but she's still making them. And so it's really changing the narrative around prescribing for women in perimenopause. I think that's going to take a while, unless you're working with someone who's already been doing it. They're very integrative in terms of how they do it, and that they're willing to work with you. I think my big piece of advice too is if you get on hormones and they're not working for whatever reason, like shout it from the rooftops, demand a different protocol, demand a different dose, figure something out. Like I was just given a 0.1 patch. I'm working with a really well-known hormone doctor, and we're trying to mitigate my migraines. But then this patch is driving me towards symptoms of estrogen dominance. There's just times where it's just not appropriate. So we had to get me another dosed patch for that time, because those symptoms of estrogen dominance were not serving me at all. It wasn't moving me in the right direction. And so now I have a very multifaceted dose regimen that I'm following.
I just cut the patches up.
Yeah. Okay, you do that too. Yeah.
To whatever they, we need that week. I want to add in there too that a lot of doctors don't have the first clue, because endocrinology was tough to learn in school, and a lot of people just skated through what they could get, right? And then secondarily, there is no version of this, and I want to be very clear, and I know you agree, there is no version of HRT. As much as I respect Mary Claire Haver and all of the menopause for getting the word out about hormones and HRT, there is no version where you get through this succinctly without an integrative approach. It doesn't work. There's just no way. I was just at lunch with Dr. Carrie Jones, and we were like, there's just no version where you have to be integrative. You cannot just slap hormones on a patient and be like, okay, good luck. This is not one size fits all. There's gut issues to contend with. There's thyroid issues to contend with. There's stress, all of these things that I know
There's lifestyle issues. There's metabolic issues. There's prediabetes, insulin resistance, inflammation, oxidative. I mean, all of that. All of this is happening. Mitochondrial dysfunction. Yeah. And the fact that we can just pretend like none of that's happening, and that, just giving you an estrogen patch and 100 milligrams of progesterone is
good luck.
Problem. Good luck, girl. I'm like, that is just not good enough. I would say that I feel like, who's really having a more nuanced conversation around this is probably Dr. Vonda Wright a bit, really looking at that lifestyle piece. But yeah, it is I even myself, as I'm navigating this, the protocols are constantly changing. I'm keeping an eye on things. Like, I know what it feels like to feel good in my body. And please get to that baseline. I mean, I know that your audience, Tina, they're dialed. Like, they probably are hopefully in their baseline. And this is just a beautiful reminder. We're about to head back into school season or in the fall. Like, let go of whatever summer habits you just had. The poor sleep, going to bed later. I know it creeps. Eating more sugar, maybe having more cocktails with friends. Like, I get it. Like, it's time to get right. Like, I'm hoping that what you're hearing from this, you're taking this away that, hey, I've got 2 months before the holiday season comes in. I'm going to go ask for those labs. I'm going to get more dialed in my approach. If something I've been struggling with, I haven't been dealing with, like, this is the time. You're not only am I calling you out, but I'm giving you permission to just take care of you. And yes, it's probably going to be a multiple tier approach. That's health. That's wellness. That's what it looks like. Someone asked me the other day, like, when can I go back to eating Chick-fil-A or like something like that? And I was like, what? Never,
Never.
never. Or a friend of mine too, pre-diabetic, metabolic syndrome, has got 2 young kids. She's like, tell me that you're not going to make me stop drinking forever. And I was like, this is the deal. You're in a big danger zone. Like, I'm worried for you. I'm flagging you hard right now. Your lipoprotein little a is 150 milligrams per deciliter. I don't want it above 70. Like, this is big concern. And I said, I know you're drinking all the time. I know you're drinking with your husband, and that's what brings you guys together. And you're giving up alcohol for the next 45 days. And I want to know at the end of that 45 days, how you feel. And that version of you, you got to ask that. Don't ask the version of you now, like whether alcohol is in or out. I want the 45-day version of you who's given all this stuff up, who's cleaned it up, who's gotten labs moving back in the right direction. Ask that woman what she's willing to do. If she's willing to go backwards in terms of bringing the alcohol back in, because I have a feeling that that version of you is a full body no.
Yeah. Well, feeling like shit just becomes a slippery slope.
I know it does.
Because you feel like shit, then you feel like more shit. So then you drink or you eat whatever, and then you feel like more shit, and you just keep kind of down that trajectory until you finally pull it together.
Spiral. Yeah,
that is a good term for it. And I will say too, sometimes working harder is not the answer. Sometimes I can't tell you the amount of times I've told my middle-aged patients, like, you got to stop going to Orange Theory. You got to stop trying to crush it at CrossFit. Like, these workouts are way too intense, and they're driving cortisol, which is driving fat, which is, that's also a slippery slope.
It's a spiral.
Like, sometimes you just got to chill and go to Pilates and do some yoga and breathe.
Or just walk.
Yeah.
Walk. Walk. I've been there. I trained Orange Theory too hard in my late 30s. That's when my Hashimoto's diagnosis came in. And I remember just taking a month off and just walking. I didn't stop moving, even on days where I have migraines. I don't stop moving. Like, I know that just because I have a migraine, and I know people are, if you're migraine sufferer out there and you're a woman, God knows 80% of us are, I get how awful it is. Believe me, there are days where I'm like, no one should have to live like this. And I know that my not tending to myself, my not moving my body, my not eating for my metabolic health, it's not going to make my migraines better. If anything, that's just a signal that I need to keep taking care of myself. And it doesn't have to be a lot, but it needs to be something. It needs to be consistent. I think that's the message too, is that it's got to be consistent. Don't consistently keep burning yourself out, but consistently prioritize you.
Yes. And maybe take a nap too. Yeah. Sometimes.
I'm curious, can you take a nap?
Oh my God. I take naps.
You're a napper.
I'm a big napper. I try to nap every single day. I'm a huge napping fan.
Nap.
The time of my life when I stopped napping, I was miserable. I for some reason, naps left me a few years ago, and I will at the very least lay down, because I have chronic spinal pain. So I have to lay down a couple times a day just to kind of reset my back. It has to be deloaded so I can kind of like wiggle it back into place. And I'll give myself a good 15, 20 minutes. I'll set the timer, and I try to breathe into the backs of my ribs, and I might fall asleep. I give myself permission to do that. But there's good data, nappers have bigger brains, lower cortisol levels, because cortisol, I just had Dr. Anna Kabeka on my show, and cortisol dumps out your oxytocin, right? You mentioned it right at the beginning of this show. You mentioned a few things that can help elevate oxytocin, and she calls it the mother hormone. Without oxytocin, the rest of it's like, pfft. So, these are like seeking joy and seeking companionship and community and hugs and petting your dog and hugging your children and preparing brightly colored food and being around other women and all the being in water, being out in sunlight, exercise, all those things help your oxytocin, dancing, hula hooping.
Well,
whatever.
Your HRV, your heart rate variability.
Yeah.
If you want to increase your heart rate variability, well, one, regulate your nervous system for one, but also if I want a HRV boost, because I think trauma drives my HRV down.
Yeah.
because it don't move, girl. Okay.
Yeah.
It's on the low side.
Me too. Me too.
I'm really blessed. I live literally as a 5-minute walk to the beach, or I just ground in the grass in my backyard.
Yeah.
We have a beautiful kind of tropical backyard, and I just ground there. But yeah, oxytocin is the only hormone that's going to trump cortisol. But cortisol can hijack it. I mean, when you're talking about survival versus tend and befriend, like you're obviously you're going to choose survival. I mean, that's what you're hardwired for. Your brain just wants to protect you. So yeah, anything that we can do. I think, what's gotten me through perimenopause that I have really anchored to is going to be my friends, my besties, my ladies, you sending you memos, sending friends memos. The other day I had 15 minutes before I was an interview, or I had something I needed to show up for, or maybe it was 20 minutes, and I could choose to unload my dishwasher, which my future self would have appreciated, like at dinner time. Sure. Absolutely. Or I could go for a walk. I could get to the beach I could get to the beach and back. And so I checked my phone, and I happened to have 3 voice memos from 3 of my favorite people. And I was like, decision made. I'm going to go listen to these voice memos. I'm going to take my walk. I'm going to be out in nature. I will figure out the dishwasher ain't going anywhere. That's just it. Your emails aren't going anywhere. The dishwasher isn't going anywhere. All the demands and everything from everybody, like I can guarantee you, those will be there when you get back.
Yeah.
After you've taken care of yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. It doesn't have to be complicated.
No.
It doesn't have to be. This sounds like a laundry list. I hear that from a lot of my followers too, is like, there's so many things we have to be doing. And I'm like, just start with one, like something. What are your, one thing. What would be your top 5 kind of in hierarchical order?
Squats would be number 1. Just get your butt up and do some squats.
Yeah,
okay?
That's good.
It doesn't have to be fancy. You don't even have to be weighted. You can be a jump squat. It can just be a squat in your seat. Just move your body.
Yeah.
Like it'll reset your nervous system. It'll give you more energy. You'll have more clarity. We know that if you move more, you will sleep better at night. Like the benefits, I don't know what the cost is there. Like I just can only see benefits. Number 1, 2, reach out to somebody today. Send them a voice memo, send them a text message, give them a call, schedule a call on a walk. Like just connect. This is a time where we have been shamed into isolation about what we're going through. And sometimes you could, when you're having that moment, you're thinking to yourself, is this early dementia? And then you talk to your best friend who couldn't remember where she put her sunglasses and they're literally on her head. You're going to be like, oh no, it's perimenopause. Okay. So it's like, there's something to be said about when you're talking to a friend and you realize, oh, you're not going crazy. Like that is the win. Next, I would say it would be protect your sleep like it's $1 million meeting.
Yeah.
Netflix is not important enough. Finishing those emails, those are not $1 million tasks as far as I'm concerned. Like just protect your sleep. If it means, you got to go to bed a little bit earlier or you're spending a little bit less time with your partner, I don't do it. It's worth it. I had a patient of mine who was like, well, my husband wants me to hold his hand while we're watching TV. I'm like, yeah, but you're clocking 6 hours of sleep at night. Like, I'm sure he would appreciate a more regulated, more well-rested version of you.
Take him to bed and have sex.
Honestly, do something else. But,
that's easy. I just look at my husband like, you want to go to bed? And he's always yes.
Always yes. He's
always, of course. And then we go to sleep. Easy.
I started having the conversation just about, finding that right doctor, talking about HRT, just open the door for getting the right provider and practitioner for you so that you've got someone on your team. I think that is so important.
Yes.
Unfortunately, I wish I could tell you that every doctor is going to honor your journey and support you along the way. It's just not true. Like you're going to have to find that person for you who's willing to walk the fire with you. And It's going to take a minute to find them. And the sooner you get started, the better, because it takes 4 to 6 office visits for a provider to connect the dots between your symptoms and perimenopause and menopause.
Just go get your hormones checked when you're 40 at the latest. Just start. At the latest.
Get a DEXA scan, get your hormones checked.
Yeah, just start.
Get a full panel. Just start. I always say, there's no one's coming to save you.
No, and then you have something to track. Like every patient who walks through the door, I will try to talk into a hormonal panel at some point. If we can't quite get things right, especially if they're over 40, I'm like, we need a baseline.
Yep.
If you feel good,
Always.
we want baseline. I'm not trying to sell something they don't need. And I hear this all the time. I hear so often from practitioners on Instagram who don't understand this, and they don't understand, like, say, the Dutch test, for instance, and they'll diss on it. And I'm like, okay, that's fine, but you clearly don't understand what it is we're trying to do here. It's called preventative medicine. And I'm looking for early signals. If you're menstruating healthfully, if you're, say, you're 38 years old, you're menstruating healthfully, but you're starting to have some weird, maybe they have some migraines, maybe they have something going on. I want a baseline. I want to see what your estrogen's doing. I want to see what pathways it's going down. I want to see what your cortisol's doing. I want to see all these things. I want to see your cortisol awakening response, because I just want to know when the wheels start falling off, which they will eventually.
Which they will.
We have baseline. We have something. Or if they are like, I feel great, and people come in and request it all the time. I feel great. I want this. Okay, great. Let's run it, because it's so nice to have a booklet of labs of my history over the past
timeline. Yeah.
Yeah, it's huge.
I have an Excel spreadsheet. I just track all of it. Yeah. Well, and there's a witch hunt right now against the Dutch test and looking at urine metabolites, and because it's a clinical diagnosis, perimenopause, which is true. I get that it's more of a symptom driven diagnosis. I always say how to know is your age, your cycle, and your symptoms. Like, that's how you're going to know. And labs can indicate as well, but it is nuanced. You got to be able to read the tea leaves. You got to have a provider who can do that, who's not just looking at the green, yellow, red and saying, that you're driving towards pathology or normal. That's a lot of providers are just looking at whether you're pathology or not. So you need to have someone who can really look at the nuance of your labs, because your inflammation levels can tell us if you're in perimenopause. There's a lot of things that can indicate it. But it's often a clinical diagnosis. It's a subjective diagnosis as well. And that's why women keep on getting dismissed. But yeah, there's a witch hunt against the Dutch test that's waste of money and waste of time. And I'm just like, it's data. It's data that we can use. I'm willing to use all the tools in the toolbox to kind of figure out what's going on with you.
Yes.
So it's just a heads up there.
It's just one piece of the puzzle. Their clinical history is far more important to me. My background was all in regenerative medicine and pain. So pain. Anybody who came in the door for pain, I was like, and especially if it was uncharacteristically intense compared to maybe what the trauma or insult was, hormones. We're immediately testing hormones, because what else? I mean, that's like the master switch for pain. Yeah. So
it's master chemical messenger.
Yeah.
These are immune system modulators. Yeah. Can we give hormones their due respect?
Yeah.
They're not just reproductive hormones. This isn't bikini medicine that we're talking about. We're talking about the brain. We're talking about your blood vessels. We're talking about your gut microbiome. We're talking about your joints. We're talking about
cartilage.
your cartilage, your immune system.
Yeah. This isn't vanity either. I will admit, when I was working for my mentor, I had a great mentor in naturopathic medicine, and he always was doing hormones way back when. I've been in this world since the mid 90s. And I really did erroneously think that the women who were coming in, so get this, it was always really beautiful women that were aging really beautifully, and they would come in and get their estrogen, and he was dispensing it out of his, I don't know how the laws were different then, but he was able to get it compounded, and then topically, progesterone's available over the counter. Estrogen's available topically over the counter. So anyway, he was dispensing it, and I really thought in my head, I was like, oh, this is vanity. This is how. But now that I look back on it, I'm like, they were beautiful because they were taking really good care of themselves, and they were eating really well, and they were using hormones as part of that comprehensive agenda. It wasn't vanity. It wasn't like they were smearing it on their face just to be beautiful. They were putting it everywhere, but man, we get tissue atrophy in all kinds of places, including down there. And it's just ridiculous to me that there's this, like, you don't need it, or you don't need it till you're this age. It's like, no, if you need a little bit, it might be because your brain is different than my brain. And me having a dip in estrogen, maybe it's because I lost too much weight I've had that happen to me at some points, and with patients. They lose too much weight, and now their estrogen's gone, and they're batshit crazy, and they're anxiety ridden, and life is horrible. So there's times when we might just need a little something. And that was my argument with GLP-1s. Like, sometimes we just need a little something. This isn't like voodoo witchcraft medicine.
Or it's not just
It's
black
logic.
or white.
Right. It's just logic.
Either. And I think that's where it gets really messy. And like I said earlier, like if you are working with, a virtual company where it is static dosing and it's the one size fits all, I mean, it's a place to start and to kind of start tailoring it for yourself. But ideally, in an ideal world, we're all working with someone that's integrative, that really understands the nuance of how these work and how it's going to shift. It's going to shift. Like what you're going to need one day is going to be, or 1 month, it may be a little bit different than what you're going to need another month. Like I have 100 milligrams of progesterone. I have 200 milligrams of progesterone. I've got progesterone cream. I've got, I have all these options that I'm always playing with, I'm like, I want all the freaking tools in the toolbox, because at the end of the day, I want to show up the way that I want to show up for the people that matter to me. And so if that means I got to like kind of tailor make my own little situation, then I'm going to, based on whatever my needs are. Like I said, like even with hormones, like some months are better than others. Yes. And I think it has a lot to do with, okay, what was my stress level? How many times was I on a plane the month before? Like all of these other things are playing a role too. Some of these variables we can't necessarily control. I mean, I guess I could control not always getting on a plane, but like I said, if you're at the height of your career and you have been putting deposits in your career where it's finally taking off in the stratosphere, you get to have that too.
Yeah.
But we just have to we got to get workarounds put into place. The number 5, if I had a 5th thing, is alone time.
Is what? Alone time?
Alone time. Just be by yourself.
Yes.
Like, if everyone's driving you crazy, if you're about to like choke out somebody, just go spend time with yourself. Like I'm talking 20 minutes, 5 minutes. Everybody can give you that. Yes. And just let them know. And also communicate. The other thing, the last thing, if I had a bonus, is communicate. Communicate with your partner what's going on. Communicate with your family what's going on. Let people know what you're going through. That way, you're not suffering in silence. They get to suffer with you. No, I'm kidding. But in a way, they probably are de facto.
They are.
But just let them know. Like I told Alex knows where I'm at. In about 2 or 3 days, I'm holding the vision that I'm not going to be, I'm not going to lose my stuff, and I'm going to have some level of stress resilience, but there's a good chance I'm not. And so I'm just, if I wake up that day and I'm just like, I don't have it. Like, can you please take Kingston for 4 hours or 2 hours or whatever? Can I just have time to myself? Can I just because believe me, you're not going to want this version of me anyway. Nobody is.
Right.
So let me just do me.
And I know this is not the option for everyone. And I do want to say that I respect that, the online version of hormones, that some of these telemedicine companies, they are very cookie cutter. They're doing the best they can, but that's expensive. And finding a skilled clinician is expensive. It's usually out of pocket. It's rarely covered by insurance. These doctors are smart enough to not have to deal with the organized crime that health insurance is. So they usually opt out. And then on top of it, like finding alone time, like the other day I woke up and I thought, I don't want to do anything today. I want to stay in bed. And you know what I did? I stayed in bed and I canceled everything. I've canceled every speaking engagement and travel trip for the next 3 months because I don't want to do anything. I don't want to do anything. I just want to chill and get myself moved to Arizona. So I realized that not everyone can do the things that we're talking about here, which I wish this was available for everyone. But I will say, let's talk about maybe that person who is feeling really hopeless right now and they're like, well, I can't find a doctor. I would encourage them to keep looking. I would encourage them to, like you've said, I think that's where your content and your book, like empowering yourself through knowledge is so critical here, right? Like this is how we move the needle forward is owning the information.
What's the alternative? I just going to say, I mean, I get that, I get how frustrating it is to have a doctor who's not listening to you. I get how frustrating it is for a doctor to gaslight you and tell you that you just need to suffer through it. I understand. I've been there. Believe me. When I was dealing with my head injury, the response I got when I was describing my symptoms was that you've been struggling with this for almost a year now. I've got nothing for you. And I was like, believe me. I've been knowing that. I just need you to run some labs because I'm paying insurance for it, and so I've been there, and the only way is through. Like I had to find somebody else. Like we've got to find someone else. And a big part of what the Perimenopause Revolution is really giving you the scripts to find that practitioner, giving you the tools. Like again, find the compounding, go on Google, use ChatGPT, find who is the compounding pharmacist in your area that is working. Who are those doctors? then how to have that conversation. Maybe it is MIDI Health. Maybe it is My Alloy. Maybe it is Joy Wellness that you've got to work with. Joy Wellness, or whatever they're called now, they'll run a full comprehensive panel for $150 if you don't have insurance. I mean, there's more and more options than we've ever had before. But when it comes to HRT and really having someone look at your labs, like my mom can't get her doctor to run. She can't even get them to run a more comprehensive cardiovascular panel at 64 years old. And I was like, okay, we're not dealing with this. We're not waiting for them to do something that they're never going to do.
Right.
You're going to have to pay out of pocket. It's $200. There's a full comprehensive cardiovascular panel. Like there you go. And I'm like, Mom, just do it, because what are you worth?
Yeah. Amen. That's what I wanted. That's what I was getting at. I just tell these people, like, try harder. You have to keep going. We're giving you all the tools. This knowledge and information has never been so readily available. The fact that so many of us influencers and podcasters are talking about this has never been this out in the world. So this is a very fortunate time to be alive. That's what I was saying. Like, there's never been a better time. And on top of it, there are so many resources in so many of these telemedicine companies, and you have to keep advocating for yourself. You have to keep looking and searching. If you get gaslit by a doctor, go find another doctor. They're not God. There are other people on your panel, maybe even with your health insurance, you might find that might be helpful. I've got so many messages from people saying, I brought your information into my MD, and have an educated, kind, knowledgeable conversation with your doctor. Don't come in like throwing, studies down and demanding shit. Be nice. But like, they've come to their doctors with knowledge and education, or said, hey, can you listen to this podcast Dr. Tina did? And then those doctors were happy to prescribe them a microdose of GLP-1s. Like, most doctors want to do less than more, they want to be conservative. So you really have to advocate. It's education is empowering, and that's the goal. You have to take the time, though. Get off the frickin' Instagram and come listen to, like, the people who want me to answer them on Instagram when I've done 4 podcasts on the subject. I'm like, go listen to the podcast, go learn to read, go read some blogs, go read some books. There's great knowledge out there. Empower yourself. And then you can go in and have an educated combo. And then your doctors will be hopefully much more receptive.
Yeah, I mean, you're always going to be advocating. My son, we just went to a pediatric dentist, super well reviewed. He has a little cavity. They're talking about sedation. They've gave me a protocol plan that I was like, what is this? And immediately I was like, this ain't it. Like, I'm getting a second opinion. So I called a bunch of other places. I asked a bunch of other referrals from friends. Like, did I want to put in that kind of time? No. No, I'm just trying to take care of myself over here. Like, and so, but I did. I called, I talked to 4 other dentists, found one 30 minutes away. And I was like, okay, I feel like this is worth the second opinion. Went and got the second opinion, a completely different protocol that was so in alignment with what I knew to be true and the research that I looked in. And I was like, thank God. Like, think about how you're advocating for your children. Think about how you're advocating for your partner or even your parents. You deserve that level of advocation for yourself.
Yes. Yes. And you can get so much stuff now. Like I was just telling somebody yesterday, another influencer friend, she's like, I can run my own labs. I said, there's multiple places.
Oh my gosh, Quest Labs, Joy Wellness, Function Health. Gosh, even Whoop is about to start running labs, Levels. I mean, there's so many places that you can go and order. We live in a time of bioobservability. We live in a time where you can look at your own labs. You can run your own labs. You can collect data on yourself with a Whoop or an Aura or even a Fitbit. You can put a continuous glucose monitor on yourself. You can get data about yourself in real time. Now, occasionally Whoop does gaslight me a little bit, but for the most part, it's pretty much on point about what's going on with me. And the numbers don't lie. Like, it is very clear when I have not gotten the level of quality of sleep that I deserve. And that's on me. That's on me to make the changes. That's on me to bring in the support. That's on me to be more consistent.
Yeah, for sure. It's like, whoops, I ate too late last night, or whoops, I shouldn't have had that glass of wine.
Yeah, exactly. Or at least I doom scrolled too long on Instagram. Let's own it. Like, I think there's something to be said about really taking ownership.
Yes, that's the word. Yes, amen. And I think you embody that so well. You're such a great friend. You're such a great advocate for women in general, and you provide so much information. So tell us about the book. Tell us where to find all your things, because
Yes.
people need to know about your world.
The Perimenopause Revolution, as I mentioned to Tina earlier, this was the book I wanted when I was going through it. Even though I had been taking care of patients for 15 plus years, I was like, can someone just spell it the freak out for me? It really shows how it's more of a systemic silent shift than we've ever been told before. It connects the dots between your symptoms and your future health outcomes, because I don't want you to think that this is just a phase of chaos and then it's over. No, it's a continuum. I want women to know that what happens in this zone of vulnerability, this moment of chaos, it's going to keep going. Like, yeah, maybe some of the symptoms are going to die down, but the silent physiological systemic shifts, they're going to carry through menopause and beyond. That it really, really highlights that in a big way. And then I want to equip you with advocating for yourself. So if you're having a hard time telling your doctor, or you feel like they're interrogating you, I want you to feel like you really have agency. So I walk you through that process as well, so that you actually get what you want, that you've got someone on your team. And then I move through the pillars. These are tried and true pillars. This isn't like, I don't have anything that you don't already know in there. It's about balance your blood sugar, getting your metabolic health in line. It is about movement. It's about community. It's about understanding the basics of HRT so you can have that conversation. It's about understanding the mental health changes and the cognitive changes that you're going to go through, so that you feel equipped to address this time wherever you are in the 10-year continuum, whether you're on year 1, which God bless you, or you are at like year 9 and you're almost at menopause's door. And then last, there's a 5-week program that puts it all together. And I just want you to know that although it's a program, quote unquote, it's a lifestyle. Don't think that at the end of 5 weeks that you're going to be done doing any of those things. Like you saddle up for the next 40 years of your life. Like that's what it's all about. I want you to know that what you do now is going to determine how you feel 40 years down the road. So let's make this time quality. I always call it double dipping. I want to be honoring my body and feeling alive now, but I also want to know that the deposits that I'm putting in are going to support my 40-year-old, like my 80-year-old self, 40 years down the road.
Yes, I love it. That's such a great way to, this is seriously, I wish that we'd had this. I wish I'd had it, because I started all this before all y'all did.
That's true. Yeah, before we were talking about it.
And I was like,
what about me?
What is going on? I was like, what is going on inside? Like, what is happening? And we are our own worst patients, right? So It took my mom and my daughter to give me some insight. I have to shout out to my mama. She was on this tip so long ago. She was using bioidentical hormones and fighting to keep her uterus and her ovaries decades ago when I was a teenager, and completely not appreciating it. But she really, really was doing this stuff early and was a very early adapter. And then I was honored enough to work with my mentor and see a lot of these wonderful women. So there were women that came before us. It was underappreciated. So I'm so excited and honored to be like fighting this good fight beside you, because I think that it's time that Gen X is not going down quietly, you know?
Kicking and screaming.
Yeah.
No, we hard-earned wet lessons, hard-earned life. Like, we're done tolerating. We're done accommodating. We demand a new level of support because we deserve it. We've worked too hard to get here. I'm not blowing the next 40 years of my life. No, thank you. And shout out to my mom, who is training for a marathon right now at 64 years old.
Oh my gosh.
Shout out to her for moving her body and being a mother effing freight train. She is redefining what menopause and postmenopause looks like. She is metabolically healthy. She is still working she is killing it. Taking names and just on her terms.
That's amazing.
And I love watching her. She does overdo it a little bit. There's that response, but for the most part, man, she is resilient. She's going to be the 80-year-old woman who is running the race, who you're going to be. I want to be her.
I love it. I love it. Is there a place for people to go?
Yes.
Is there a website to send them to?
drmariza.com, drmariza.com. Energized with Dr. Mariza is a good place, but all the resources there on the website. And then come to Instagram, drmariza at Dr. Mariza. If you want levity, if you want to laugh about what you're going through, if you want support as well, like that's a beautiful place to come find me.
Your page cracks me up. It randomly pops up and I start laughing, and then I look and I'm like, of course it's Mariza. Of course, it's great. You make light of it and it's good times. Okay, awesome. Well, I love you so much, and I'm so glad you came on the show today. And this was a great conversation. I hope it was very helpful for people and hopefully very empowering. And I hope everybody goes out and grabs your book.
Yes, that's step one. Step one, grab my book. Step two, do some squats.
Yeah, I love it. I'll do it. I'm going to take that to heart. I'm going to do some squats next time I'm feeling funky. I'll send you a voice memo.
Yes, please. Yep. An update.
Thanks, lady.
Bye, honey.
Thanks for listening to The Dr. Tina Show. This is a Wellness Loud production produced by Drake Peterson and mixed by Mike Fry. Theme song is by John the Guilt. You can watch the full video version of this podcast inside the Spotify app or on YouTube. As always, you can email the podcast at podcast@drtyna.com. That's DRTYNA. And if you like this episode, please rate, review, and subscribe on your favorite podcast app. You can also find all of my offerings on my website at drtyna.com. For more shows by my team, go to wellnessloud.com. See you next time, and thanks for listening. This podcast is for general informational purposes only. It does not constitute the practices of medicine, nursing, or other professional healthcare services, including the giving of medical advice. I am a doctor, but I am not your doctor. No doctor-patient relationship is formed. The use of this information and the materials linked to this podcast is at the user's own risk. The content on this podcast is intended not to be a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Users should not disregard or delay in obtaining medical advice from any medical condition they have, and they should seek the assistance of their healthcare professionals for any such conditions.